So thank you very much. Good morning to you all. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk to the dynamic people from the FICCI. And though I know it's called the FICCI Ladies Organization, it is actually the FICCI's main organization. So it is the flow which makes the FICCI move. Without flow, how can you move? You need a big flow to move. So this is how you really make it happen. So let me congratulate you. Thank you very much. And I'm sure as we go along, we'll see more of good news coming from flow. So I look forward to that. Actually, thank you for suggesting this very interesting topic, how to rejuvenate India's agriculture. For an organization like FICCI, which essentially is industry body, why should we talk about agriculture? So normally we hear more of sound, more of issues being raised related to the industry by such an eminent body, rightly so. It is absolutely necessary that they must raise it. But actually speaking, if you really look at it, without agriculture, you cannot have industry. Many of you have come from or have origins, because I know FICCI's FICCI is a pan-India organization everywhere. But good part of FICCI's leadership in the past, and I'm sure in future too, will come from those families who have roots in Rajasthan, from Rajasthan but moved to Kolkata. What is the main industry India had before independence? The textile industry, cotton textiles. Where does cotton comes from? Without agriculture, can you have cotton? Or I mentioned Kolkata deliberately because can you have jute industry, which was the mainstay once upon a time of the industries in eastern part of India? Could you have jute industry from and doing something, making sacks, making other things from jute? Could you have that without agriculture? Could you think about food industry, which is one of the fastest growing industries? Could you have food industry, which is food processing and other things, without agriculture? Meat. I know many of you don't eat it, neither I eat. Meat is a mainstay again, the non-vegetarian diet. All of that has origin to agriculture. So the animals need to be fed. So agriculture is actually, in a way, the fountainhead, the foundation of industry also in many ways. Other segment of India's GDP, and the most important one, almost 2/3, is services. Services, if you look at it, includes so many things. Let's take transportation. And today, right now, it's a Rabi harvesting season. Could we have transportation of a large scale, whether by road, by rail? And that transportation will add to the GDP of India through service sector, because they will move from farm to market, huge produce. Or some food right now, which is getting exported through aircrafts, which again will add to GDP through transportation, which is service sector. The insurance, many others. So services again also depend on agriculture. So agriculture is a very important segment, though 14–15% of India's GDP, but support more than half of India's population. So agriculture is very important, not only from livelihood, from economic perspective also. So if you rejuvenate agriculture, as what you want me to speak on, we'll be rejuvenating India's economy. So when we talk about post-corona, how the world should look like, world can live without transportation or travel rather, because you and me are talking to each other without having to meet each other personally. So maybe we can live without it. We can live without entertainment. We can live without some business, maybe for some time. But can we live without food? And therefore, pre or post or during corona, the agriculture will always be at the forefront, and without that, nobody can survive. That's a different matter, how agriculture evolved, etc. I'm not going into that because I'll just briefly talk about the rejuvenation part of it. But to understand the perspective why rejuvenation is necessary, as I mentioned, very interestingly, India, if you look at it, not going too far or too past, but say about last 50, 60, 60, 65 years, very interestingly, 60 years ago, in 1960, there were only 45 crores. Now we almost tripled. From 45 crores, we have become almost 135 crores, 132, 133 crores. But we have almost tripled in the course of last 60 years. And our GDP, share of GDP in 1960 was 42.77% of GDP. Agriculture is to contribute 42.77%. And today, it has come down to 15%. The number of people who were depending on agriculture at that time were only 45 crores. And today, you can see very clearly, if you say even 2/3, it's almost 100. So number of people are doubled, number of people in terms of number, or at least from 45 to 90, if you can even say. And the share of GDP has gone down by almost 2/3. So now you tell me, if you want to address India's poverty, the best way to do it is to increase either the share of agriculture into GDP, or make sure that those people who are dependent on agriculture will be able to get extra income outside agriculture. So Prime Minister's strategy, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's strategy of doubling farmers' income should be seen in this perspective. If the farmers start earning more, they'll buy your products from industry more, they'll use more services, and therefore the incomes of farmers will actually drive the future economic growth. And today, when we are all talking about economic rejuvenation, though we'll talk in a limited way about agriculture, increasing income of the people is a primary purpose. That will boost demand, that will create purchasing power. And to do all that, what is most important is to make agriculture completely rejuvenated. Per capita income of India, if half of the population derives only, or rather half of the population only derives income, which is in the national income only 14-15%, obviously you can clearly see that there is a mismatch, and therefore we really need to work on agriculture rejuvenation. And I'll come to it later, how Prime Minister Modi has focused on it in the last 6 years in a very significant way. When we talk about agriculture, it obviously includes agriculture, horticulture, it includes fisheries, it includes meat, dairy, all of that put together. We have done quite rapid strides into all this. In many of these, we are in the top 3. Milk, of course, we are number 1. In fruits and vegetables, we are number 2. In rice, in wheat, in pulses, in many others, we are in the top 5 or top 3. So that means we have done rapid strides, but we really need to do more. Now, rejuvenation, when we talk about, it means making it completely different. Dr. M.S. Swaminathan, who is an eminent food scientist, he and C. Subramaniam had actually worked together. C. Subramaniam was agriculture minister on bringing India's first agriculture revolution, which we call Green Revolution. So people talk about second Green Revolution, and Dr. Swaminathan is a good friend of mine. So we are discussing one day in a common platform, and he said, why not we have evergreen revolution? Why second Green Revolution? Why not evergreen revolution? It means rejuvenation agriculture should be seen in that context of making sure that we'll never have a problem in agriculture. Evergreening agriculture would mean we have to think about many issues. But the primary issue of agriculture is that we have limited land. So when we rejuvenate, we should understand this. We have only 4% of the land of the world. That's not all agriculture land. The same land we use for forest, but we have decided as a first forest policy, 1/3 to be kept for forest. It is not possible. We have still got more than 22% forest land. Remaining we need for industry, we need for housing, we need for roads, we need for infrastructure. And all land is not arable. China is much bigger than India, more than twice. But arable area of China and India is almost the same, because China has a lot of mountainous regions. China has a lot of desert. So all that is left is arable area on which we have to do it. But even in there, land is important. But in land is not only important. And I've just mentioned the difference between arable area and land. If you have land, doesn't mean you can do agriculture. Otherwise, you can do agriculture in desert. It's a topsoil, which makes it possible, decide the fertility, and in the process decide the productivity. So if you really look at it, the topsoil, it's a function of millions of years of activity that the topsoil is created. So topsoil has to be maintained, and therefore Prime Minister has also launched a program for maintaining the topsoil, soil testing, and depending upon that, the cropping pattern. Because in Punjab, I know some of your membership will be from Punjab, we are using groundwater for making rice or paddy. We just imagine most of the rest of the country, rice is a rain-fed crop. But if you are using that and taking water out from below the surface, it can even add to salinity. So topsoil can get damaged. Topsoil can also get damaged because if you don't give proper nutrition to the soil. So when you give fertilizer, you should also give micronutrients. I was also chemicals and fertilizer minister. You mentioned about my various government responsibilities. Among 10 ministries, I was also minister of fertilizer that I held over a period of last 25 years. So I can clearly see that there is rejuvenation would basically have to focus on fundamental things: land, soil, water. We have 2.2% of the land, sorry, I mentioned 2.2% of the land and 4% of the water of the world. Only 4% of the fresh water. 4%. In India, we are using a lot of groundwater for agriculture, which is going to create a huge crisis in future. If you want rejuvenation agriculture, it cannot be done either without land, means topsoil as well, and water. So if the groundwater is going to get depleted and aquifers are not going to be recharged, how are you going to do the rejuvenation? So we'll have to make sure that we use water in a very sustainable manner. Now the new technologies like artificial intelligence, using big data, we can actually use that technology for agriculture to ensure that we give right inputs to agriculture, whether it is water, whether it is insecticide, pesticides, whether it is seeds. All of that can be done in a way knowing the condition of the soil, and based on that, cropping pattern can be devised by using this. But the problem is, and which I just mentioned, that we have water, we need that, and 160 million hectares of land which is arable in India. 39 million hectares comes from groundwater irrigation and only 22 million from canal irrigation. So groundwater being so critical part of agriculture, if you don't maintain it, we will not be able to rejuvenate agriculture. I think the flow means you have to flow with the water. So water and flow is very important. So you as ladies organization cannot ignore water, because if you ignore water, you will not be able to flow. Forget flow, will not be able to walk, will not be able to live. So we must make sure therefore that water is something which we really try to keep in properly. Despite the fact that we have the largest buffalo and cattle population, we really need to feed them as well. So we don't need only food for us, but we need it for them, we need it for poultry, which in turn provide food security for so many others who don't only eat this. So we have to keep this in mind. So while we have 1.34 billion people, 134 crore people, we also have, very interestingly, almost 54 crore livestock. And therefore we must keep this in mind, that we want to rejuvenate, we must make sure in such a manner. Also, when we talk about rejuvenation, we must keep in mind one very important aspect, that's climate change. Agriculture is going to be worse affected because of climate change. The temperature rise will possibly make wheat will not be able to survive if the temperature rises beyond 2 degrees centigrade, normal temperature as is normally done. So we'll have to then Because of climate change, the water availability itself will be a problem. So therefore, agriculture which needs land and water will be dependent on both of this, and climate change is going to put a lot of serious challenges. So in rejuvenation of agriculture, we have to factor in the climate change. So we'll have to develop new varieties of crops which will be climate compatible, climate proof agriculture, develop new strategies. Also other danger, and which is part of, probably I would have spoken it a little later, but I'm just, let me say, because I don't prepare a speech, is desertification, which is a very, very important challenge for the world. More and more desertification takes place, which is happening at a rapid pace, also thanks to the climatic as well as other changes. The arable area will go down, and that is going to pose serious challenge. So we'll have to ensure that climate change is important, but we must keep in mind that agriculture must be done in a manner that is naturally sustainable. Pollination. I'm sure you are aware of pollination. Pollination is the real fundamental reason why agriculture happens. It's an ecosystem which keeps alive by pollination, and biodiversity keeps alive. But even agro-diversity is possible because of pollination. Particularly fruits and nuts, which are the fundamental diet which gives us protein and others, will not be able to do it without pollination. And therefore, pollination has to happen. We must keep nature issues intact. If nature is not taken care of, and we need, obviously, among the inputs, there are certain pests, certain insecticides. We need to use pesticides, insecticides. But if you use them in a way that pollination doesn't happen, we'll have a problem. So while we need, and we must use some of the agrochemicals, which are part of crop protection, but we must also do it in a way that the nature's ability to pollinate will not happen. If the pollination doesn't take place, the birds or the insects or the other animals, including bats, they don't take it other. In fact, people are attributing the coronavirus to bats, because it went from animal to man in that particular way. But they are also one way for pollination. So we have to keep this nature cycle in mind. If we disturb it, long-term food security and rejuvenation of agriculture will not happen in a right manner. So we must keep all this. Saying at the rapid stage, and we should be proud of it. This year, we'll make something like 291 million tons of food grains. 291 million tons. This year, we'll make milk production of 176 million tons. We'll have meat of 8 million tons, and horticulture, which is 313 million tons. Which what it means? That we have horticulture production, which is more than agriculture production. So when we talk about agriculture, keep in mind that rejuvenation is happening in a very different basis by changing the agriculture profile. Like we are talking about changing energy profile. One day I will talk to you about energy. That's my another passionate area. I actually transform the power sector. But once we do that, you realize that agriculture is no longer just agriculture. It's horticulture mainly, which is more than agriculture crop, and we should try to work on it. As I was saying, that we must keep everything in mind. I remember that we must keep this in mind. So I, as an environment and forest minister way back in 1998, I launched a bamboo program. This is something which will environment friendly, and I would urge all of you to use bamboo more than wood for furniture, for designing, for many things. You can use bamboo. You can actually make so many products out of bamboo. I launched it in all over India, but also in Northeast. Now, when we talk about agriculture and rejuvenation of it, the Prime Minister is talking about agriculture, which is completely environment friendly, and therefore I'm talking in context of environment, and he's talking about that agriculture products which everybody wants to, each one of us want to use, which are not going to cause any adverse impact on our health. Such products can be grown in Northeast in a significant way. In fact, Sikkim does not use any chemical fertilizer, nothing. They use completely organic farming. So organic farming is going to be also part of a rejuvenation of agriculture as we go along. We'll have to have market linkages to ensure that farmers get better price. We, as a Commerce and Industry Minister, under Prime Minister's guidance, we prepared a first ever agriculture export policy, which will take India's agriculture export to $100 billion, which will boost farmers' income. Because if the farmer produce more, the prices fall and farmer doesn't get anything. Like in case of onions, you and me make a lot of noise about onions, which is not even fraction part of our food budget or even total family budget. But still we make noise. And a poor farmer, if he doesn't get good price, his whole life is ruined. Not just year, but life. So try to understand that farmers must get a better price. And for him to get better price, export is a better option, because if you don't export, domestic prices will fall with the increase in production. Therefore, we made this agriculture export policy. The idea of 100 billion tons, $100 billion of agriculture produce will be able to export. So market linkage is very important for farmers. Therefore, Prime Minister launched many programs, including e-marketing. There were agriculture price market committees, which are preventing movement of products from one state to another, or one geography to another, forget within the state also. So all those limitations has to go, which will ensure that we'll be able to get better price for the farmers. We must also have more extension work. That is what created, in a real way, the first ever green revolution. Extension work is the real reason that research was taken from laboratories to the farmer's place. The extension workers work on the farm, train the farmers, educated them, work with them. That's how the green revolution happened. Now we need more of that as we go along, and we should try to work on that in a very significant way. And in my speech about how Prime Minister is working on it in a very focused way. He has worked on all inputs by giving more credit, by coming out with Prime Minister Fisal Bima Yojana, agriculture information technology to give farmer price support, to come with Prime Minister's Kisan 6,000 rupees per farmer, and also working on market linkages, as I mentioned, in many ways. So Prime Minister launched many programs for farmers, which will result into rejuvenation of farmers and agriculture in the years to come. So let me stop here, because I have this bad habit of speaking only within limited and allocated time, and also on a subject which is what is assigned to me by you. So let me stop here, and thank you once again for making this happen. Obviously, my speech flow was not as good as your flow, but I still thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for giving us this insightful talk on agriculture. And I must highlight here, sir, as I told you, FICCI Ladies Organization is a 36 years old organization. And this year, when I took over as President Pro, I made agriculture as one of my agenda to be rejuvenated in India. And this I looked at as women in agriculture. Because what we realize is, whereas men go out of villages to work, sometimes in towns, sometimes in factories, and they look for urban jobs, they look for more income. The women are the one who are staying back and they're working, but they're not given the status of being a farmer. So throughout the year, we were doing our researches. We were trying to find out what was happening, in various areas of government, various areas of India. We collected a report. We did a survey. We collected a report, and I would, send this report to you also, which is about role of women in agriculture in India, and how could probably, if that report any what ways can help government, will be very happy. That whatever work we've done, we've been able to do it, because we realize that this is one sector which needs push.
See, without women, you cannot do agriculture.
Right.
Because sir? Without women, you cannot do agriculture. Sir, in all the farmers' families, most of the family works on the field. The labor that they put in is never properly evaluated and therefore not properly recognized. But the women do more for the farmers, and even post harvesting, they really go to the market. They do a lot of things in absolutely right. Thank you very much for making this report.
Sir, without women, not only agriculture, nobody can do anything. So there we are.